Hello dear students, I am Professor Sonali Mate from Mechanical Engineering and I welcome you all for the session of Design of Machine Elements 2. So in this video we are going to talk about unit number 1, that is spur gear, and under this we are going to discuss about the basics of spur gear and some of its design part. So basically we will discuss first introduction. So here in the figure you can see there is a spur gear, this is a spur pinion and this is a spur gear. So they are in the meshing condition over here. So basically these spur gears are used to transmit power and the rotary motion between the parallel shafts. So the basic arrangement of this spur gear system is that they are arranged on parallel shafts. If the teeth of the gear wheels are parallel to the axis of wheel, the gears are called as spur gears. So this is the main identification of this spur gear, that the teeth of the gear wheel, it is parallel to the axis of shaft. This is the axis of shaft and this is the just a minute. This is the axis of shaft and this is the teeth of the gear wheel. So they both are parallel to each other. So this is the main identification of the spur gear. So it is used when the axis of the driving and driven shafts are parallel and coplanar. The smaller of the two gears in mesh is called as pinion. So small size gear is called small size is there are two gears basically. The small one is called as pinion and the larger one is designated as the gear. So the advantages, or talking about the advantages and disadvantages of spur gear. Spur gears have high power transmission efficiency. They are compact and easy to install because now the teeth are straight, so they are easy to manufacture and even they are cheap also. They offer constant velocity ratio. So comparing it with other belt drives, spur gear drives have no slip. So we know that we can the slip is the main disadvantage of the belt drives here, that is overcome in case of spur gear drives. So there is no slip condition because there is a no slippage between the teeth basically, whereas in case of belt drives there is a slippage between the belt and the pulley surface. So velocity ratio varies over there, whereas there is a constant velocity ratio in case of spur gear. These spur gears are highly reliable and they can be used to transmit the large amount of power up to 50,000 kilowatt. So they are used to transmit the power up to 50,000 kilowatt. And talking about disadvantages of spur gear, and talking about the disadvantages of spur gear, spur gear drives are costly when compared to the belt drives because gear manufacturing cost increases the cost of drives. They have limited center distance, whereas using belt drives we can transmit power at the longer distance. Spur gear produce a lots of noise when operating at high speeds because now as we have seen in this image, as we have seen in the previous image, that the teeth are parallel, they are straight. So the pinion teeth and gear teeth, when they mesh, there is a jerk and there is a noise generated during meshing, so they produce lots of noise. So these are the basic disadvantages of spur gear. The applications of spur gear: metal cutting machines, power plant, marine engines, mechanical clocks and watches, fuel pumps, washing machines, motors, gear pumps, rack and pinion mechanisms, material handling equipments. automobile gearboxes, steel mills, rolling mills. So various applications are there for spur gears and they are widely used. And talking about the speed, so basically at low speeds the spur gears are used, and the transmission ratio for the spur gear is at all about 6:1. So just we'll go through with the gear nomenclature. So this is the diagram which is showing you the tooth profile, and so we'll one by one we'll see what are the different points. So gear ratio, it is the ratio of the number of teeth on the wheel, or basically on the gear, to that of the pinion. So number of teeth on gear upon number of teeth on pinion, that gives you the ratio, that is gear ratio. Transmission ratio, it is the ratio of angular speed of the first driving gear of the train of the gears to that of the last driven gear. So basically when we are talking about single stage, when we are talking about the single stage, it means if suppose this is a pinion which is in the mesh with the gear. Okay, so then in this case here will be the input shaft which is connected to pinion, and here will be the output shaft which is connected to the gear. So the transmission ratio, formula for transmission ratio will be the ratio of angular speed of first driving gear. So that is nothing but your pinion is driving over here, input is given by this input shaft. So pinion is first rotating, and due to the rotation of pinion, gear is rotating, and here this how the power is transmitted. So the formula becomes this Np upon Ng, angular speed of the first driving gear, this is your pinion, and to the angular speed of the last driven gear. Now this is the transmission ratio. Now you can imagine for a single stage, gear ratio and transmission ratio is same, but when we are going for two stages, means if suppose this, how is the condition, this is the pinion, this is the input shaft, here is the pinion, here is the gear which is in mesh with it, and further this output of the gear is given to the another pinion, and further it is connected with the another gear, and this is the actual output. So here in this case, now transmission ratio will be this speed upon this speed. I hope you can differentiate between these two, this speed upon this speed. So here that was the statement that first driving gear upon last driven gear. Now in this case this is the first and this is last, but in this case this is first and this is last. Face width, the width over the tooth part of the gear measured along a straight line generator of the reference cylinder is known as face width. So here in the diagram you can see, so this surface is nothing but your face width. So width of the tooth basically, which is measured along a straight line of generator of the reference cylinder. Now the next is base circle. In an involute cylindrical gear, the base circle of the involutes of the tooth profile is known as base circle. Next is circular pitch. The distance on the pitch circle from a point on the tooth to the corresponding point on the adjacent tooth. So circular pitch, here you can see, so it is the distance between the point on this tooth and the same point lying on the another adjacent tooth. Okay, so this is nothing but the circular pitch measured along the circle, or measured along the pitch circle you can say. So it is given by the formula P is equals to pi d by z, where d is the diameter of pitch circle and z is the number of teeth on pinion. Now if suppose we are calculating the circular pitch of the pinion, so this is the number of teeth on pinion. Okay, now talking about diametric pitch, it is defined as the number of teeth on the gear divided by the pitch circle diameter. So diametric pitch is Z by D. So Z by D, so this can be written as, if suppose this formula can be written as pi upon Z by D. So this Z by D is nothing but represented by capital P. So this becomes small p into capital P is equals to pi. This is the relation between circular pitch and diametric pitch. Next and very important term, or this is the term through which we are representing the gear actually, that is module. It is defined as the pitch circle diameter per unit number of teeth. So the basic formula is diameter per unit number of, or diameter per teeth, per unit number of teeth. So again Z by D can be written as 1 by P. So this is the relation between circular pitch and module. They are inversely proportional. Then the pressure angle. Next is pressure angle. So it is nothing but the angle between the line of action, that is the line through which the pitch point and tangential to the base circle, line through the pitch point and tangential to the base circle, line which is passing through the pitch point and which is tangential to the base circle. So it's the angle between the line of action and the line perpendicular to the line of centers at the pitch point is known as pressure angle. Next is center distance. The distance between the centers of the two gear in mesh is known as center distance. So basically it's given by the formula, that is diameter of pinion plus diameter of gear divided by 2. So center to center distance basically. Now backlash, the difference between the tooth space and the tooth width is known as backlash. Difference between tooth space and the tooth width. So here you can see in the diagram, this is the tooth space, that is the distance or the length of the tooth along the pitch circle, and this is the width of the space, that is the distance between the two teeth. Okay, so backlash is difference between these two. Backlash is difference between these two. So always now the backlash should be optimum, because if there is more backlash, so imagine now when there is a meshing condition, it means this how actually another tooth will be there. If suppose there is more difference between these two, or if suppose there is more backlash, then there will be not there will be no proper contact, and if it is less backlash, then friction, there will be more friction. So basically it should be optimum. Then talking about clearance, the difference between the addendum of the one gear and the addendum of the mating gear is known as clearance. So this how is the clearance shown in the figure. It is the difference between the addendum circle of one gear to the addendum circle of the mating gear or another gear. So this how we have discussed about the nomenclature of this spur gear tooth. Now let's talk about the beam strength of the design of the spur gear teeth, that is the design for static load. Actually now design, it consists of various steps. So in this video I am going to discuss only just one step based on beam strength. Okay, so basically now this analysis is done by the scientist. Analysis of bending stresses on the of the tooth is done by the scientist, that is Wilfred Lewis. Now actually every gear teeth, it undergoes some failure. Okay, so there are two types of failure which are acting over here in case of spur gear. It is pitting failure and one is the bending failure. Now bending failure is due to the bending stresses developed in the tooth, whereas the pitting failure is due to the wear of the tooth surface. So initially now this design is based on consideration of the static load. Okay, so analysis of bending stresses, this is done by Wilfred Lewis. So actually this, the equation derived by this consideration or with this, is also called as Lewis equation. Now here the assumption is that the gear tooth is assumed to be cantilever beam. Okay, so this is the fixed, this end is considered as a fixed end, and this is the beam actually, or we are assuming this as a beam, and we are assuming that the load is applied at the free end. Now this is nothing but the tangential load. This is the tangential load, fixed end, and this is the tangential load, and this is how, this is nothing but B is the face width shown over here. Okay, now the tangential component that causes the bending moment about the base tooth. Now actually what happens when this tangential load acts at this free end, what you can imagine is this how actually the bending of the teeth takes place. So the bending stresses are generated in the teeth. So there are some assumptions in this derivation actually. The effect of the radial component which induced compressive stresses is neglected. Now this is the tangential load acting on the beam, and at the same time this is the radial load which is acting over here. So as we are assuming this as a beam, so this tangential load generates the bending stress, and at the same time there is some radial force acting on the tooth. Now this radial force, the effect of this actually is neglected. Now this radial force induce some compressive stresses. Okay, now tangential component is uniformly distributed over the face width of the gear. This is the second assumption. So basically we are assuming that tangential component is uniformly distributed throughout the face width. Okay, here we can see in the diagram it is point load, but it's not point load, it is uniformly distributed over the face width. Now when it is possible, when the gears are accurately manufactured, but always we know that there is some amount of tolerances, but still we are assuming that force is uniformly distributed. Then the effect of stress concentration is neglected, and at a time we are assuming that only one pair of teeth is in contact and takes the total load. Means whenever the gears are in meshing condition, so we are assuming that one teeth of pinion will mesh with the one teeth of gear, but practically one gear pair is fully in contact and other preceding gear pair is in partial contact. Okay, so let's see the derivation. Okay, so considering at a section XX, so taking moment, so if suppose this is the section XX and taking the moment, so tangential force into H. Now H is nothing but the height of tooth, so MB is given by PT into H, where PT is tangential load. Now I, that is moment of inertia along the XX section, it is given by BT cube by 12, and Y is the distance from the neutral axis, so it is given by T by 2. So the bending stress formula is given by sigma B is equals to MBY upon I. So MB is PT into H and Y is T by 2 upon I. So this is nothing but substituting these formulas, we are getting this formula, and again rearranging all the terms and cancelling out some common terms, we are getting PT is equals to B into sigma B T square by 6H. Now multiplying the numerator and denominator by the term M, because we want this formula in terms of module, because module is a very fundamental parameter for the designing of gears. So multiplying and multiplying and dividing by the module. So it becomes Pt is equals to mb sigma b T square by 6hm. So now actually this whole bracket term is treated as a constant term or a defining factor y is equals to T square by 6hm, and this y is called as Lewis form factor. This y is called as Lewis form factor. Now this Lewis form factor varies with the tooth profile. This Lewis form factor varies with the tooth profile. So substituting this y over here, so the formula is Pt is equals to mb sigma b into y, where m is module, b is face width, sigma b is the bending stress, and y is the Lewis form factor, where Pt is the tangential load. Now this is the formula of Pt, that is tangential load. But now we are talking about beam strength. Now what is beam strength? Beam strength is nothing but, or simply it is nothing but the strength of the beam. It means it is nothing but the strength of the tooth. Okay, so beam strength of the spur gear tooth is defined as the maximum tangential load the tooth can sustain without failure. Means what? If suppose this is the tangential load, no doubt this tangential load will generate some amount of bending over here. But if suppose as you are increasing the amount of Pt, what will happen? There will be increase in bending, and at certain point the beam will fail. There will be failure due to this tangential load. Now what is the beam strength? The beam strength is nothing but the maximum tangential load the beam can sustain, or you can say maximum tangential load the gear tooth can sustain without bending failure, So what you can say is, as your Pt increases, means as your tangential load increases, sigma b increases, bending stress will increase in the tooth. Okay, so what is the beam strength? Now beam strength is denoted by SB. So SB is nothing but maximum tangential load the beam strength the gear tooth can sustain. So the stress, up to what stress actually the beam can sustain? Up to its permissible bending stress, basically. So this is nothing but permissible bending stress when we are talking about SB. When we are talking about PT, so it is nothing but your bending stress. So in this formula, PT is equals to mb sigma by, where sigma b is your bending stress. But now as your PT increases, sigma b increases, but up till what PT the beam can sustain? Up till the permissible bending stress. So the formula with permissible bending stress will give you the beam strength of the gear tooth. So the final formula will be, just a minute. So the formula for the beam strength will be SB is equals to MB sigma B Y, but here the sigma B will stand for permissible bending stress or maximum bending stress, you can say, or ultimate bending stress. So when this value is ultimate, then this is the beam strength. So this is nothing but the formula for beam strength in terms of module, face width, bending stress, and Lewis form factor. So beam strength is nothing but maximum tangential load the spur gear teeth can sustain without bending failure. So this is how we have discussed about beam strength. in which the assumption is that the teeth is cantilever, or teeth is assumed to be as like a cantilever beam. Forces are uniformly distributed, tangential load is uniformly distributed, and radial force is neglected, and at time one gear pair is in contact. So this is the beam strength. Now in my upcoming videos we'll be discussing about wear strength and further design procedure. So for today we'll stop over here. Thank you.